Well, I'd like to welcome everyone. Thank you so much for being with us today. Looking forward to what we can go over today. We have a lot of work left to do, and some of that will be parceled out. So we can get going now. And the first item I see on the agenda is that we are doing a roll call of members. So I am going to go through our member roster, and Christy is going to mark us present, absent, or something else. So Judge Ashby.
Here.
Here we are. Okay, Sandra. I know we have Sandra.
Here.
Jennifer Franklin.
Here.
Thank you. Katie Mooney. Jerry Kilgore. Patrick Murphy. No. Okay. George Ortiz. Lola Perkins.
Here.
Thank you, Lola. Corinne Peters.
Here.
Bruce Russell. How could we avoid seeing him?
I know, right?
Okay. Henry Sue.
Henry
David
let us
Webb.
know in advance he has a conflict.
Okay. Thank you. David Weber. Ed Wiener.
Sorry, my
also-
mic was
I'm sorry, go
my mic
ahead.
was muted.
Oh,
My
David's
mic was
here?
muted. Hello.
Okay.
Present.
Excellent. All right. Thank you very much. All right. Ed
I'm
Wiener, also
Present.
obviously present. And for staff, we have Krista and Christy present. So thank you.
And
Patrick just logged in.
yes. Hey, Patrick.
Hey, Patrick.
Hello.
Lost my visuals already here. Okay. I think we're ready to roll forward then. At first, I'm going to. Oh, my screen just went dark. Lovely. Bring us up to date. Thank you for displaying the agenda, Chris, on work that we've been doing, and then we also have some assignments for you. And so far, Chris and I have been working on gathering a lot of information that we think will be useful for the committee. And that includes for Chris, membership data and trends. We're gathering some bar exam data and trends. I've been in touch also with the Board of Bar Examiners for that. We've conducted 8 rural field hearings around legal desert parts of the state. As you know, going in a clockwise circle, starting in the Northern Neck and then finishing up in Shenandoah and Lexington. And those have been, I think, highly useful. We've gotten a number of good anecdotal comments that will be important to us. And Krista's working on creating transcripts. Well, she has created transcripts for those, which we will ask some members to be working on. I've been doing research on what other states have done with regard to trying to respond to legal deserts, what kind of programs they've created, have they been successful or not? And I will, not at this meeting, but as we go along, I'll have some reports on those. We've deployed the survey for all attorneys, which you probably got to see this summer. It was included in a July monthly email of the State Bar to all attorneys. And we've also made that available at the VBA summer meeting and in other venues. We have done a survey about legal deserts. We have had meetings with law school deans. Mike York and I have had a number of in-person or hybrid meetings with all the law school deans, gathering their information, their opinions. And hello, Mike. Thank you, Mike, for joining us. I was just talking about you, Mike. So good timing.
And
our-
David, with
Yes.
that, with
Go ahead,
that
Chris.
pause, welcome, Mike. Thank you for joining us. We also had Professor Mooney Gallagher join and Liz Schiller, one of our guests.
Good. All right.
Great.
Thank you, Chris. And with regard to the meetings gathering their comments and recommendations about encouraging how law graduates make decisions and encouraging more interest in taking the Virginia bar, Mike York is creating a summary of those meetings for our use. We also have the previous identification of lagging circuits that Cameron has done. And Chris, would you go ahead and talk about the rural hearing documentation and exactly what you've been preparing in that area?
Yes, so for every field hearing that we've done, we have typically 2 recordings. So one that's available on our YouTube channel, and then we also have just the audio file that's available on our EGAD Virginia page of the VSB website. If you're assigned to one of these hearings to do validation work and editing work on the documentation, you may or may not need to refer to those. I think the transcripts are pretty good at this point. There are final transcripts for every hearing. I've used those transcripts to create AI high-level summaries using our Copilot tool. The summaries are great, but we need your help sort of drilling down into, areas of interest to you in terms of where we might want to do additional AI analysis to get more detailed information. And then I have this massive rural field hearing matrix that is essentially an Excel spreadsheet that's tracking issues and challenges and observations by hearing. So this is going to range from like what struggles are practitioners in the area having with recruiting to trouble filling legal aid positions to challenges that self-represented litigants are facing in those courts, issues with filling the court-appointed list, whether it's criminal defense attorneys, guardian ad litems, or parents' counsel. We've also identified just kind of localized issues that have more to do with the community itself, the economics of the community, and maybe infrastructure and services challenges like, does the jurisdiction also appear to be a medical desert, things like that. So that summary will allow us to kind of, in our report, drill down to say 7 out of 8 jurisdictions where rural hearings were held identified recruitment of new lawyers as a major issue. So it's really just a tool for us to look at this in a holistic way and then get it down into narrative and infographic form in the final report. In addition to tracking the issues and barriers and challenges, there's also a tab that tracks proposed recommendations that have come up in each of the hearings. And there's also a tab that tracks sort of the benefits of local practice in hopes that we can kind of take the approach that Mike York coined as viewing these areas as legal opportunity zones more than legal deserts, or in addition to being legal deserts. And then I also have tabs where we can identify key individuals that maybe spoke at these hearings that we may want to go to for follow-up. clarification, further comment. So as you can imagine, it's been a pretty large undertaking and time-consuming undertaking to go through and document all of these. I'd say that we're 99% there on the issue identification. Where I need help from committee members is going through the transcripts and making sure that all of the recommendations and the key players and the benefits of local practice are memorialized for each hearing. So that's sort of where we are. That matrix will be available, that the working document, to anyone that gets assigned this task on the committee, so that we don't have issues with version control. And you'll also have access to the recordings, the transcript, and the high-level AI summaries.
Okay, now, Chris, you've used the word assign or assignments twice.
Yeah.
Let's explain what we have in mind there. That we are going to ask members of the committee, individuals, to take responsibility for each one of the hearings in terms of those diving into those transcripts and the summaries and the recommendations, and creating your analysis of what's important for us to know out of that hearing, and the recommendations that are important to know. And under Roman numeral 4, which we haven't quite gotten to in this agenda, that we have proposed some individual assignments, which you're free to object to if you choose, or to swap with another member. But yeah, we'll come back to that in a minute, but I don't want to lose our place on the agenda. So that's what we're talking about when we say assignments. So still yet to happen is that we are have a couple urban field hearings coming up. These are not organized by our committee, but by the parallel committee of the Access to Justice Commission has a listening tour committee, which is chaired by Andrea Bridgman. And they are planning several urban hearings this winter and spring, and also an online hearing for anyone that did not get a chance to speak to us so far and still would like to participate online. So that is yet to be scheduled, I think, but that will be coming up soon. And yes, there's still yet to happen is the law student survey. We have not distributed that yet, but that will be soon. That we plan to deploy that through the law schools. Same thing's happening with a survey of the courts, particularly the chief judges in the circuits. And Chris, we're including the chief circuit judges and the district court judges, correct?
Correct.
Yes. Good. So that'll be another valuable source of information for us. Chris has been working with the National Center for State Courts and Legal Services Corporation to create some legal desert maps to give us a visualization of where the deserts exist, and it shows you some of the wide gaps in availability of legal assistance, and shows other factors like courthouse locations. Okay, the identification of legal deserts per the AVA definition, and that is less than one attorney for every 1,000 residents. That will show up also, we think, within the legal desert map category, and also will identify the percent of the population living below the poverty level by city and county, and additional state bar member trends based on membership analysis. All that will be taking place in February. Okay, I think, Chris, is there any more you want to say about any of those categories?
The only thing that I wanted to mention is that y'all may remember from some of our first discussions about kind of level setting around how we're defining underserved areas or legal deserts, And the Virginia State Bar is able to track over time pretty easily lawyers by circuit. We have everyone's address of record within the system and can run an export of that. And it's basically a static representation of our membership at the time of the export. The issue is that we don't have a really clean way of representing what city or county they're in. That actually requires geo mapping in order for us to say with certainty X number of attorneys in this city and X number of attorneys in this county. And the legal desert definition, as y'all recall, is based on city county metrics. And so the only people that can do that geo mapping for us easily and accurately are the people who develop these legal desert maps. So that's why we haven't really moved beyond the identification of the lagging circuits, because we have to wait for them to do that geo mapping in order for us to truly understand how our attorney volumes break down on the city and county level. So I'm really excited about looking at that. We don't have to wait until the maps are done in order to start exploring that data. We can actually take the raw data that NCSC is willing to give us after the geo mapping and kind of start plugging away at, where are the attorneys, and then plugging in the related city and county population volumes.
Okay. What I want to suggest is that we continue going through the agenda and then come back to the individual committee assignments that we've suggested. So we have, in addition to looking at the particular areas, we will looking at other things like the law school student survey, member data, other kinds of the other surveys we've talked about, the anecdotal feedback. We'd like to identify potential reforms for Virginia regarding the practice rules for out-of-state attorneys. We've received several comments about the military spouse practice rule, about how that could be improved, about reciprocity, and also about corporate counsel. We've received information about needed reforms for improve things for guardian ad litem and court-appointed fees in particular. Economic incentives to increase rural practice. And what I want to focus on next then is the format of the report that we are recommending that we follow, and also the committee timeline. Let me look at the committee timeline first, since that's okay. Where are we? Okay, so since that was on display, and that starts at the bottom of page 2. Yeah, Chris has just highlighted that area. What we're proposing is to complete all research and analysis by March 1st. We would have a meeting during the week of March 17th to report, to approve concepts that are recommended in the report as to actions that Virginia should take, either through the state bar, through the courts, through the General Assembly, whatever. And then complete a draft report based on that by April 2nd. Review that with the committee in the week of April 21st, and then publish the report to the public on May 1st, so that Bar Council in particular has over a month to review the report and can take up the recommendations in the June meeting of Bar Council. Okay. Chris, let's look at the format and structure of the report next.
David, before we move on, might I ask to get any input from committee members on spring break concerns for that March meeting? I know that the University of Richmond has their spring break the week before March 17th. But I just want to be cognizant of scheduling conflicts, especially because this will need to be a hybrid meeting. We're going to have at least 3 people in one physical location in order to conduct business. We don't want to push too late in March because, then we're going to be backing into that April 2nd deadline for the draft report.
And that'll be a Richmond meeting?
No, we can go to the Tidewater area. We can go basically wherever we have the critical mass for the 3 in-person people.
We could be in Lebanon again.
Come on down. And remember, it's Lebanon.
Lebanon. Thank you.
David Weber has his hand up.
Yeah,
David.
I just wanted to confirm, I just checked my syllabi. That week is spring break for Salisbury University too. So March 17 through Sunday the 23rd is spring break on the Maryland side. So I will be out of pocket.
This is Solomon. I've got a dentist appointment that of course I can move, but otherwise, I don't think I've got anything slated to take me out during that day. So I can move that if necessary, if we can get a physical group somewhere in this area. And will travel if need be.
Thank you, Vaughn. We could send you to Lebanon.
Well, look, I hadn't seen Bruce in a couple of years. I'm about due to head that way.
I'd love that.
Oh. But we do want you to keep your teeth. So those dentist appointments are pretty important. And if you live in a community like mine, it's hard to get in with the dentist. So I try to keep my dentist happy.
I am unaffected. This is Lola. I'm unaffected by spring break. I do have some other meetings that week, but I should be able to be present and can try and switch some things around.
Any other concerns with that week?
This is Jennifer Franklin. I can be available the beginning half of that week, but I'm in competition like Thursday, Friday of that week.
So Chair, I might recommend in terms of logistics, because we only have a few people who aren't available for the entire week, that we select some dates and poll members for some options and then choose whichever one is best for the group.
What kind of competition?
Moot court, First Amendment.
Good. Is this you or someone you're supporting?
It's my students. I'm the coach.
Of course.
So
Never
most weekends and from middle of February through April, but I get lucky and do not have something the weekend of the 15th and 16th. So.
Okay. Chris, maybe we could look at the last couple days before that week and the first couple days after that week as well.
Sure.
Great. Okay. Thank you for raising that, Chris. Can we look at the report outline next then? Great. Chris and I have worked on a draft outline for how we would present our information to the public. And so this is our recommendation for the committee. Starting off with the introduction, talking about entry into the Virginia legal profession first, what's been going on nationally, how we compare factors influencing that. Then going on to talk about the growth and distribution of Virginia attorneys, demographic trends in the state as well in the membership, challenges and opportunities, how this affects individuals and businesses, how it affects the courts, and then and how it affects individual attorneys as well as the bar associations. And
David,
then,
can I jump in here, David?
go ahead, Ed.
That's been really enlightening, and I know it's not exactly in our mission, but
Which is not.
the problem that I now have come to learn that some of the rural bar associations, they can't even keep going. In the Northern Neck during that Warsaw meeting, they don't want to talk about it, but that bar association was really defunct. There was, and that means 5 counties. The Northern Neck Bar is comprised of 5 counties, and they've had no president for the past 6 years. So the woman who was the last president didn't want to be, and made it very plain that she didn't want to be president anymore. But no one would step up to take over. Just last week, they got back on track, and the Commonwealth attorney from Northumberland County said, okay, I'll do it. But that kind of fits in here with, I'm wondering if other rural counties or rural bar associations are also having that problem. Nobody will volunteer to do any work.
Ed, I think all of them are, and I'll tell you, that's how I wound up getting stuck as president of the Russell County Bar Association for, I think I'm going on 13 years now.
Yeah, easy.
And can't get rid of it. So
Yeah.
it's like a bad penny, but I'm happy to do it. But I wish we could get some younger people to come in and do it. But I don't know. That's all. We'll have a separate conversation about that sometime.
I thought that would fit into our thing if we were talking about bar associations in these legal opportunity zones. Even the associations are going under.
Yeah. And I think it's very much within our scope of work to look at what impact that has.
Thank you.
And then the final section of the report then would be our recommendations to the various bodies I listed previously. And to me, everything should be on the table. Okay, Chris, let's go back then to our list of individual assignments. Okay, so here we are with some preliminary assignments for the individual hearings. First, Ed mentioned the Warsaw hearing, which was actually one of our better turnouts, and has suggested Jamie Clemmer, who's on the OES staff, helping to support the A2J Commission for that. For our hearing in Bellhaven.
I'm really sorry, I'm ignorant. What are those 2 acronyms that you just used?
OES and A2J?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not one of the cool kids. I don't know that.
Okay, thank you very much for asking, Ed. No such thing as a bad question. And
Right.
OES is the Office of the Executive Secretary within the Supreme Court.
Okay.
And
Yes.
ATJ is access to justice.
Yes, the Supreme Court created an Access to Justice Commission about a dozen years ago. It was Justice Goodwin's proposal, and he was the first chair of it up until a couple of years ago when he became chief. He tapped Justice McCullough, who is now co-chairing the commission with John Whitfield from Blue Ridge Legal Services. The commission meets 3 or 4 times a year, has committees that have worked on various initiatives increasing access to justice. And I'd be glad to send you some summaries after this meeting of what's happened there. Okay, the Eastern Shore then would be David Weber. We would ask David to work on what happened there. Sandra Gilstrap attended our Danville hearing and practices in Danville. And so we'll take responsibility of that. We had 2 hearings in Southwest, one in Abingdon. Bruce spoke at the Abingdon hearing. He was our only speaker. And so he would be the best person to summarize that. And then in Grundy, Katie Mooney Gallagher would be creating that summary. Our hearing in Isle of Wight, Patrick Murphy in Woodstock, Lola Perkins, and then Lexington, Andrea Bridgman, who chairs the Access Commission's touring committee. We would ask to do that summary. Then moving on to the law school research, to summarize the Virginia Law School statistics. Could you talk about, Chris, about what statistics those are we're talking about with law schools? Is that who goes where?
So that actually, a lot of that is defined on the research matrix that we previously circulated. I did not circulate that as part of the meeting materials because it's going to be the assignments are going to be updated in response to feedback we get at this meeting. But it's things like admissions to law school over time, graduation rates, bar exam rates by state, both in terms of test takers and passage rates. And we've got other statistics. A lot of this information has already been gathered, and like the rural hearing documentation, I'm going to put it in a folder that can be shared so that whoever takes this on can have the benefit of all of the research that we've put together so far. We have requested certain information from the law schools, and I need to get a status update from Janet, our deputy director, on what has come in so far. If you all don't know, the next gen bar exam was adopted by the Virginia Board of Bar Examiners, and that's a helpful step. But we still want to take the opportunity to provide an overview of, what at least the last 10 years has looked like in terms of the trending. And then we can certainly point out and highlight the fact that the next gen bar was adopted in hopes that that will be helpful. But we do still want to outline the issues.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Krista, to be the ignorant one on the crowd, but did I just hear you say that Virginia has adopted the uniform bar?
No, so the UBE is going away, but this is the new national standard bar exam. I don't know.
We're in on that?
Yes, so that will
Really?
be implemented.
It is shocking.
It's important that we highlight successes, especially recent successes that may impact some of the concerns that we're trying to mitigate related to these membership trends and legal deserts. So to the extent certain changes have taken place, our ability to call out and thank the stakeholders like the court and the Virginia Board of Bar Examiners, I think will be helpful, because there still will be likely recommendations that impact those stakeholder groups, right? So I don't want anybody to think that just because the next gen bar exam has been adopted that we wouldn't want to take the opportunity to provide an overview of what we've seen in terms of trending. So that's really what this section of the report is about. It's
But we
just
also have to keep
summarizing
in
that
mind-
and making sense of it.
Yeah, we also have to keep in mind that even though they've adopted it, it's going to be at least 2 years before they actually implement it.
Yeah.
I mean, I
Exactly.
think it's July 2028 before it'll be implemented. So
Yes. Apparently, from my reading, much of it is still in flux. There's still proposals floating back and forth, and there's not a lot that's definite yet.
Okay.
And I think there's still a lot of questions around portability, and just sort of how that will impact, you know, multi-state admissions. So a lot is still coming, but at least we do have a decision on whether, you know, they were going to adopt this new national standard or continue to create an independent Virginia bar exam. David, do you think
Yeah,
it makes
Mike.
sense for us to sort of approach this piecemeal? Like, are there any objections to the assignments for the rural field hearing documentation?
See, I don't have an objection, obviously, but I need to be clear on the time frame for that because I will be out of the country for the latter part of February. And then I know we wanted to try to meet the beginning of, I saw something, March, where is that? That's on the different screen. March 1st, right? One meeting we would try. Where is that?
We would complete our timetable we proposed have us completing all research analysis by March 1st. And then we would have an actual meeting. We've suggested the week of 17th, which we now know is also spring break. So somewhere around mid-March is when we'd actually meet.
So, all right. So March 1st, the deadline for summarizing the field hearing. I know I already did, you know, a summary on that 144-page article, but in terms of the field hearing summary, what deadline would you like for that? What are you trying to establish for that?
I think the sooner the better on that one.
Okay.
I would say maybe around Valentine's Day. The reason why, yeah, I think that makes sense because this is actually a pretty light lift. You all don't actually have to summarize the hearing. You're basically just validating and adding to the work that I've already done.
So you can get that to us promptly. Okay.
That's ready to be shared today.
Great. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Great. That'll be helpful because then I leave shortly thereafter. Okay. I'll try to get it done before I go. Okay. Thanks.
And there's no one here that's on this list. There's no one on this list that's absent, correct? Everyone is able to confirm that they're good with these assignments other than Andrea, but she'll do it.
Yes, you will. Okay, it sounds like
David has his hand up. David Weber.
David?
I'm fine. I'm fine with the assignment on the summarizing the hearing, but I'm probably going to have trouble doing the other assignment in the time frame that you guys need.
Okay.
Which one is that?
Item C.
Okay.
Is that the one you're referring to, David?
Yes.
Okay. I'll talk more about that when we get to that because I have some caveats to share on some of these deeper, you know, analysis of data sets. So before we get to that, let's just close out the law school research portion of the agenda.
Okay.
Good. Okay. Yeah, Jennifer, we have you down for Virginia Law School stuff, both and including law students there, and Katie working with you on the law students.
Okay, so I'm a little concerned about the survey aspect of it. It's just the timing of it because J.R. Zepkin retired. I've undertaken the role of gathering all of the different professors together that are going to be providing feedback on the bar essay questions, which has a little bit of a lead in of me making sure everybody's on board and what different things there are. And all of that's going to be like happening between, you know, frankly, 14th of February and the 28th, which makes it a little difficult for me to do the analysis and summarizing of the findings on top of that.
Yeah, yeah. And that's exactly why this meeting is so critical, because I think that there is flexibility to move assignments around. Let me give the committee a little bit more information about where we are with the survey. So the law student survey language is in final draft form. I developed that with David's input and with input from the market research expert that we've been working with to make sure that, you know, those questions are as clear and concise as they could possibly be. So it's pretty far in the process. We're not asking anybody to draft a survey from whole cloth. We're basically looking to see, are there questions that we really need to ask that are missing from this? And are there ways that we can improve it? And then what we really need assistance with is just getting it deployed. So, you know, we can provide the tool for the survey. It can be the same tool that we used for the surveys that we've already deployed that has a lot of built-in bells and whistles for analyzing the survey results. It's more, the need is for, you know, coming up with a plan for how to do outreach to the law schools to say, would you be willing to get this out to your full student body? And it's not controversial. It's not really asking questions about knowing that the VBBE already chose to adopt the next gen bar exam. There are questions on there about like the importance of portability of the bar exam and being able to use scores in multiple places and things like that, but it doesn't really get into the nitty gritty of like perceptions of the Virginia State Bar exam itself. So really looking for somebody to provide final input on that language and then come up with a plan for distribution. And then I can kind of take the heavy lifting from there on analyzing the results. So I don't know if there's one or the other between A and B that is more interesting to you, Jennifer, that you might want to sign up for. I mean, you could certainly take on the survey on your own, and then we could see if somebody else could summarize the metrics and the data that we've already collected.
What do you need most?
Both.
Okay. I mean, frankly, A appeals to me a little bit more.
Okay.
I'm happy to help, like, do a final read through of the survey and make sure that it's okay. And I'm happy to talk to you about, you know, how best maybe to distribute it. I think that's going to be law school by law school, though, you know, depending. Like, I happen to know my law school, the best way to do it is to go through our dean of students, who will then send it out to everybody. And then we just hope for the best.
Okay, so we'll keep you on as point on A, and then I can work with Katie on the survey, and then we'll pull you in as needed for
Okay.
input. Does that work?
Katie,
I'd be
Right.
happy to help with that too if additional help is needed. This is Corinne Peters.
Okay, perfect.
Mhm.
guys, I was gonna say, in the summary, the large multi-state legal desert article, a lot is discussed about different incentives and the deployment of certain programs, et cetera, at the different law schools. So I'm not sure when you're going through to maybe consider some additional questions, look at that article. I sent the summary to Dave. I can get it to you. And you guys can just skim it, but they did have some discussions about what they started to do at different law schools, and that might pique an interest for certain students that are completing the survey, if they're not already in there. And you guys may have already considered that, those questions and ideas in the survey, but that might be an additional place to peek.
I love that recommendation because yes, the law student survey is much more focused on qualitative input from law students about like, what do you really consider to be important in determining what state you're going to seek admission to, and then eventually where you're going to geographically practice. Is it your earning potential? Is it that you have a really strong interest in a certain area of law and the market for that type of law only exists in certain places? Like, it gets into all of that. We talk about, student loan debt, and, whether or not having some relief from that would influence their ability to consider a place that they might not otherwise think they'd go. But yeah, that's a really good idea. So
Okay,
you
I'll
said
get
you'll
with you.
send that to me? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Chris, another resource that we might consider if we needed on law schools would be Tara Casey.
Yes.
And hi, this is Lola again. Sorry, I had my hand raised, but I know it's hard
Thank Lola.
when we're sharing a screen. I probably mentioned this before, but I'm a member of the local government attorneys of Virginia. So is Patrick. And we have a law school liaison committee, and that committee actually works with law schools and provides scholarships to law students to our conferences, which are twice a year. So I've got a list, or can get a list of at least law students that have attended our conferences, that have applied for our scholarships. And that may be another avenue. And there may be other organizations throughout the Commonwealth that have some sort of law student scholarship. And that may be another angle to get to law students, not just through the law schools themselves. So I'm happy to do that outreach if that is something the committee would like to explore.
Absolutely.
Perfect.
Thank you, Lola. Great. Okay, Chris, where are we on the assignments?
We are now down to analyzing the VSB member export and summarizing the findings.
Yes.
So
okay.
For any of these, the heavy lifting is really going to fall on us internally because we have access to the data. What I'm looking for is just a point person that will be available to look at this with me to ensure that, we're not suffering from being too close to the data, right? So are there just insights that we're completely missing? Are there filters that we should be applying to identify trends that we hadn't thought of? Like, for example, in this massive attorney export, we'll know, especially once the geomapping is done, like where the attorneys are in terms of city and county. We'll also know ages. We'll also know where they went to law school, things like this. So we might see trends around that, like in certain areas of the Commonwealth, in certain cities and counties, the age of attorneys is much higher, and in other areas it's much lower. That it may be that we're seeing that a large percentage of the UVA law graduates within a certain age range are Circuit 33 out of state. I think that I certainly have ideas for how to slice and dice, but I don't have, yes, I see that, Ed, thank you. But I don't necessarily have all the answers, right? And I don't want to become too much of an echo chamber.
Chris, sorry.
Go ahead, Liz. I was going to call on you.
Oh yeah, I don't have all the answers either, but I have a lot of experience poking holes in research and a very broad perspective on this. Being from somewhere else and working in law schools, federal government, state government, happy to be that person if you're if I can help or be part of a group interested to work on this with you.
Thank you, Liz. Liz, will you introduce yourself to the group just so that everyone knows who you are and the great work that you're doing over at OES?
Sure. Let me see if my camera's aligned. There we go. Hey, everybody. I'm Liz Schiller. I am the staff director for the Access to Justice Commission. think I might have met some of you at some of our virtual hearings, but anyway, looking at this issue from a slightly different perspective, but very happy to be included today. So thanks for having me.
But thanks for volunteering, Liz.
And if there's anybody else who's interested in this and is a little bit of a data geek, likes creating charts and looking at Excel spreadsheets, you know, let me know. I'd be happy to work with you. And David Weber's hand is raised.
Go ahead,
Yeah,
David.
I wanted to apologize, and I would acknowledge that based on having a doctorate in scientific research that I would appear to be the proper person. I just don't have the bandwidth right now. And if Liz is willing to do it, it would be great. I've just learned, it's taken me a long time to learn, but I need to say no sometimes. And I just don't have the bandwidth. I don't know if you guys are following, and it's probably the same in Virginia, but Maryland is dealing with its largest fiscal crisis that it's ever had. And there have been budget freezes throughout the state university system. And I'm suddenly teaching all these extra classes because they can't hire anybody. And I just don't, I'm pedaling as fast as I can.
Good. Well, thanks, David. We appreciate what you can do.
Just as long as you keep pedaling.
I'm pedaling, but it's just to share. You guys know I'm a forensic accounting person.
Yes.
I'm
I was
being
coming
forced
after
to
you,
teach.
you know that.
I'm being forced to teach law for the first time in my life. I've been a full-time professor for 11 years, and there is an absolute statewide freeze, and the person who taught the law classes broke her back over winter break. And they won't even allow an adjunct to be hired. And I'm literally the only other person on the campus other than the university council who has a law license. And so now I'm teaching law to hundreds of undergraduate students.
Thank you and
Take
good
care
luck.
of yourself.
Okay, next on our list, what do we have? Are we moving on to potential reforms such as the for out-of-state attorneys?
Oh, I did have one question. And Ed has his hand raised.
Yeah, I see. You have me teamed up with Patrick. I have worked with Patrick. It is a joy to work with Patrick, but I have to decline this time.
Okay, thank you, Ed.
Before we get to that, I wanted to just quickly mention that for whatever reason, there is a very stark difference between the response rate for the all attorney survey and the response rate for the legal desert survey. We had distributed the all attorney survey to a subset, a random sample of the Virginia State Bar membership. I think in total, we probably ended up sending it out to about 8,000 members. We actually had almost 2,000 responses, complete responses, which is really great. And it's across the board, you know, in terms of geography, where these attorneys are coming from. We had 40 responses to the legal desert survey. So I don't know if people just got confused and completed the all attorney survey and thought that was it. But I wanted to get input from the committee on whether or not it makes sense for us to circulate that to attorneys that are in what will be the identified legal deserts. Because right now, you know, the distribution for that one was really limited to attorneys in lagging circuits. But I think that may have been both over-inclusive and under-inclusive of our true legal desert cities and counties. So, you know, the thought is would there be value in redeploying that to a more targeted group? And then number two, would we have time to analyze it? I mean, we can deploy a survey and close it within 10 days. So I would love to open up the floor for a discussion on that.
I don't think there'd be any harm in doing that, and I think the confusion factor may indeed be the culprit here as to why we didn't get more responses. So I don't see any reason not to. Can you think of a reason not to?
I mean, just that all the other considerations in terms of like the timeline for completing the research, you know, but it's important anecdotal, qualitative information to gather that we're not going to get from just looking at membership trending, you know, because it's really perceptions about why they ended up practicing where they are and the challenges that they see and the recommendations that they have. So it's not dissimilar to the field hearings, except that the hope is that we'd have a lot more of a much larger sample size, right?
And Chris, I see hands up for Ed and for Sandra.
Sandra first.
I was just going to say, I don't think you have a sufficient sample.
Mm-hmm.
If you only have 40 responses, then you don't have a sufficient sample. And so for us to summarize, you know, it would not be a piece of quality work and craftsmanship if we were to just use that. So I think it's imperative. I mean, that's just my position. I know we're crunched for time, but unfortunately with 40, I would hate for us to give a summary of something and then someone look behind us and say they only have. I want whatever work we produce to be respected, and for us to do that, it may look like we're in any event. So I don't think we have a sufficient sample. I know we're crunched for time. Irrespective of how we got here, that's where we are. And if we can get it deployed, and somehow the way that it gets deployed, we make sure that people don't just ignore it in their inbox, because I'm assuming that's how it will get deployed, is through email, that we encourage folks. And also the folks that live in the legal deserts, I can send out emails to my bar and the local bar to be on the lookout for this survey and to please make sure that you take the time to respond. So
I say Lola and then David.
So question, is there a simple way that we can cross-reference? Like let's say we get, 100 responses. Is there a way that we can make sure it's not a duplicate response to the last one? Because I think what would be better is to just say, fill out the survey. Even if you filled out one before, please go ahead and fill it out again. But I also wouldn't want to, if those same 40 people fill it out again, I wouldn't want it to be their input to be counted twice.
Yeah, that is a question that I can ask the market research contact that I have, because there's probably a mechanism within the survey tool itself to keep that from happening. Now, it might not be 100% foolproof, but it's going to probably mitigate that risk.
That would be helpful, because I wouldn't want someone to say, oh, I already took it, and in reality, they took the other one. And
Right.
Then they don't answer this one. So if there's a way to just say like, hey, even if you took it before, you think you took it before, go ahead and take it again.
David.
I did want to confirm that the general rule on surveys and statistical sampling is that you need a sample that's a minimum size of 150 in order to be statistically valid. And that's a minimum.
Good. Okay.
If we were going to resurvey the surveys, could we include a survey question that said, have you previously answered the survey? And which survey did you answer?
Yeah.
Right. I know in SurveyMonkey, if once a survey is filled out, with a certain URL, that same computer that answered it cannot do it again. Okay, got problem addressed. All right, what else do we need to discuss assignment of here?
David?
We had, go.
Judge Ashby had his hand up.
Oh, thank you.
I was just dittoing, send it out and put as much time behind it and send us, it would be helpful to send us an email. Like one committee member said, I'll ping all my former specialty bars and other folks and whatnot during the open time period to try to make sure as many folks as possible. I think that's probably going to be necessary even for the judges, the court surveys, because as I was commenting on the survey and editing the survey with Krista, when I presented it to some of the questions to my judges, they immediately tried to, for lack of a better word, pass it along to the clerks to answer the questions. And so that was after I talked to my clerk, my courtroom's clerks, to get answers too. So the more we can let folks know the survey is out while it's out, or suggest who may assist them in completing it, I think we'll get a little better response.
Right.
Okay. I had a thought.
Go ahead.
And again, I'm just relating to what I've seen happen in the Northern Neck. People don't respond unless there's something about a judge being involved in this.
Hmm.
I was wondering if there's a way to tie in, because this is a program of the Supreme Court and we're working with them, if we could approach a judge to not to have it go out on their email, but just to somehow put their seal of approval on this. That's the only time people show up for anything down there, is if the judge is involved. So,
What about a Court of Appeals judge? Ed, because Dan Ortiz is on the committee. Oh, he's on the phone. I mean, I think that we can talk through options for deploying the survey and exactly what, is in the transmittal and who it appears to come from. We've got, tools that we can kind of make it look like it's coming from a certain person, even though the responses will all come to my inbox. I think the big key here is that I know who my main point of contact is, so that when we want to discuss the options, I have somebody to bounce it off of. So I think, Judge Ashby, I had you down for the court survey just because you've already been involved. Are you okay with continuing to be involved with that?
I'm fine. And so, much like Ed said, my expectation is when I know exactly when they're going to hit, I've got a Teams group of the rookie JDR judges that came in with my class. I plan to send a ping out to them to say, get it done. So I don't have a problem teaming with David to, if you all can kind of put the group email together, or David and I can talk about how best it is to try to do that or whatnot, and try to ping it out so that we ask our colleagues to help us by asking the folks in front of them, which is legitimately, I've had this discussion with the CACs and the GALs in our court already. I'm willing to send that communication out and say it'd be helpful to get that information to anybody on the bench, if my encouragement will get us some more comments and votes, especially out west where we need them.
I think that's a great idea. And a judge encouraging other judges to urge their local bar members to respond. I think it's great. Thank you, Solomon.
Yes, thank you so much, Judge Ashby. And thank you for everything you've done up to this point on getting us where we are. I will say that OES has been extremely helpful. I think that my contact there right now is very involved in session. But my hope is that when, she gets out of the heat of that, we'll be able to get this deployed, perhaps even through OES. I just don't know. We're kind of still exploring options there, because obviously if it comes directly from them to the chief judges, it has a little bit more weight to it.
Okay. I'll do some head scratching and I'll chime back in with you, Kristen, a little bit.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you.
All right, thank you for that great discussion. We have, right now we have, I guess I've, Patrick doing the out-of-state attorney by himself, unless we get another volunteer or identify someone we want to tap.
Chair Newmeyer, can
Yes.
I ask for your input on whether it would be appropriate to open up the all attorney survey to the members on the call? Because knowing that Ed is not able to help with the potential reforms, I was thinking that Henry Sue might actually be a good partner on that, because he's so tied in with the ABA and sort of the national landscape of, multi-jurisdiction practice and those things that maybe relate to reciprocity and admission without examination, which would open up the all attorney survey for someone else that may be interested in looking at that.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. We should involve Henry any way we can. So I think it's legitimate to call him and tell him he's been tapped.
And Patrick, are you good with working on that? I've actually already started some summaries of the existing Virginia rules, so that you'll kind of have a baseline for comparing to what's happening in other states. And again, there'll be a folder where I'll put the information that I have, and then you can add to it and use that as you see fit to do the analysis of the other rules.
Chris, I think Patrick sent a note that he had to tap out for a few minutes.
Right.
Oh, I didn't see that. Okay. Yes. Okay. We'll follow up with him.
Okay, great. For identifying potential reforms about GALs, we had Corinne. Corinne, you okay with that?
I am, yes.
Great, thank you. Economic incentives to increase rural practice. Sandra, I'd be glad to work on you with that, because I've done a lot of reading on that subject.
Okay, so you get with me, just let me know what we think we're doing with this.
Yep.
Identify potential economic, and I'm assuming a lot of that also we can tap into the suggestions from the article that had lots of incentives there too.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Great. Okay, I think that covers all of our areas of assignment, Chris.
There's two that we skipped over. One is the I know we're going to be going back to redeploy the legal desert survey, but Bruce, are you interested in working with me on looking at the responses?
100%.
Okay.
Always willing to work with my buddy Chris.
And then this is really kind of a subset of the potential reforms for out-of-state practice. This is specifically drilling down to, are there ways to increase participation in pro bono if we're not able to identify potential reforms that would allow just like broader Virginia practice for out-of-state attorneys? Could could the needle be moved for pro bono allowances specifically? And I certainly have a good amount of knowledge related to what's happening in this space. So again, I don't think that this would be a huge lift for someone. I just need a partner. So I had originally put you down, Lola, but I don't know if there's anyone that has a particular interest in this or is touching on it in other areas of their work.
I'm happy to help, but I have no prior knowledge about this except what I've learned through participation in this committee.
Okay.
That does not disqualify you. In fact, it enables you. So thank you. Okay, I think we're set with that then.
Yeah. So now we're good, David.
Okay. All right. I think we've talked about the rest of our outline. Chris, is there anything that we have not covered for this call?
I don't think so. The only thing that I will say is that we've got 2 outstanding assignments that I need to confirm. So it's possible that I'll be coming back to the larger group if Henry to help me with the all attorney survey findings. And I actually think that's going to be really interesting work. Liz, I don't know if that's something that you might be interested in pairing up on as well, just because it's kind of on that, you know, broader membership level. So my thought is that we're going to be looking at alongside the member trends that we're pulling out of our record system. I don't know if Liz is still on.
I'm here.
But I can circle back once I get feedback from Henry and then Patrick, it looks like you're back on. Are you back on? So many faces.
No, I don't think he is, Chris.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I'd like to ask for some feedback. One of the articles I've read has suggested that rural deserts are certainly connected to economic deserts, and encouraging rural economic development is a way of lifting a number of boats. Does anyone on this call know a rural economic expert, economic development expert that I could consult about what direction that might go?
I can put you in touch with Jenny Nichols. And Jenny is actually already involved. She's not a lawyer. She's already involved in the Virginia State Bar because she is a lay member on our local discipline committee. So I can put you in touch with her. Her day job is she is involved with economic development down here in Southwest Virginia. I forget the exact name of the organization that she's with. She's very civic minded. She's on our school board. And in fact, I think she's the incoming chairman of the school board association, the statewide school board association. But anyway,
okay.
I can put you in touch with her. That'd be worth a conversation if she's willing to do it. I haven't checked to see if she'd be willing to do anything like that, obviously.
Great. Good. Sounds great. Thank you. And please let me know. And Lola, were you going to say something also?
Yes. So if that doesn't work out, I have an economic development consultant that I work with who used to be the head of the Gateway region, and she might be interested or could refer us to someone else.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
And David, I can get you a name or two. The one lady, I'm not sure exactly what's going on with her now, but I know she was she put Danville on the map and actually was in charge of the River District Association that won Danville Main Street America Award, National Award. So she helped revitalize and bring economic development to our downtown district.
Great. Okay. Thank you.
David,
Solomon.
I don't know if you're going to be able to gain his attention, but Randall Eads is the city manager for Bristol, and I believe he was the city attorney. Yeah, he was. And so
He's both. He's both. He's
both.
city manager and city attorney.
And
Wow.
he and I worked together. Well, yeah, I guess you say coordinated with the casinos issues when I was still at Portsmouth, because he's set with both of those hats. I'm sure he's got an economic development director or folks around from that area. Otherwise, I would tell you just pick a jurisdiction if you want to kind of spread it out. Call that city, nearest city, and ask for the economic development director. And you might be able to get you a fair smattering across the Western region.
Excellent. Okay.
But Randall probably has all of that in his head and can at least put you in contact with someone.
Excellent. Okay. Thank you.
Hey, David, this is Brett Marston. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, Brett.
I have two recommendations for you. One is a gentleman named John Cole, who is the head of the Roanoke Regional Economic Development Partnership, and he is really deep into the data economic development in Southwest Virginia. So if you need his information, get in touch with me. And then also, have you talked to anybody from the Cardinal News at all? Or have you followed any of their writings on this topic?
I'm a financial supporter and a regular exchanger of emails with Dwayne Yancey.
Yeah, so Dwayne obviously has a lot of information about the socioeconomics of South Side and Southwest Virginia. So I think he might be a good resource.
Excellent suggestion. Thank you, Brett.
A lot about population migration and those type of topics.
Yeah, I read anything he writes.
Yeah.
Okay. I think we've completed our agenda for today. Is there anything else that anyone would like to raise that we haven't touched on yet?
David, this is Mike. I sent you a contact at Virginia Tech who also is an expert in rural development who might be able to might agree to be an unpaid consultant.
Good. Thank you, Mike. Okay. I think we are done, and we hear Bruce's keyboard telling us that it's time to hang up. So thank you all.
I was texting Jenny Nichols, who I was talking about there, to let her know that that you would be reaching out to her in the next couple of days.
Excellent. Thank you, Bruce. Okay. Great discussion.
David,
Yes.
David,
Brett,
before you gavel us closed, let me say thanks to everyone for participating. Thanks for your work, and thank you, David, for setting a very aggressive schedule. But we need it. We need it as soon as possible. So thanks to all.
Thank you. And Brett?
Mike beat me to it. Thank you all. I've been following this from a distance as the president-elect, and you all have been doing incredible work. I get asked about this topic, I think, more than anything else that I get asked about as I go around to meetings. And it's the topic that folks seem to be the most engaged on and interested in. They're much more interested in this than the fact that we're working on a potential dues increase. So, it's not a hard competition, but definitely it's got a lot of folks' attention. It's important. You guys are doing an incredible job. I'm super impressed with what you've accomplished, and I'm really looking forward to the final product. If I can help in any way, let me know.
Brett, you can get Glenn Pulley on this project too. It must be one of your, okay?
I would be glad to get him involved. Yeah, let me know if I can get him to help you in any way. He's gonna, yeah, he would be glad to help, I think.
He came and participated, didn't receive the notice because obviously he really doesn't receive much information at the Danville bar. But I sent him a message, the memo, and he came and participated that night in our field hearing. So I know he would be wonderful to contact.
I'll follow up with him. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
I want everyone to know that Brett is the first bar president from west of Richmond since George Shanks, which was about 25 years ago. So it's about time, and Brett's going to push us across the finish line.
Great.
Yeah, this is important work. Thank you. And if I make it to July 1, I will be the first one in a while, David. So get me there.
All right. Okay, we'll be in touch by email. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks
Thank
so
you.
much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye, everyone.
Right.
Brett, I'll be praying for you to make it.